hello again, KCIW listeners, and welcome to Curry Café. I'm producer and volunteer Rick McNamer. Every Sunday from 3 to 4 p.m., your host Ray Gary puts together a panel of guests to discuss topics of interest in our community. Listeners can participate by texting questions or comments to 541-661-4098. Again, that's 541-661-4098. Now here's Ray to tell us about today's show.
Well, as always, we have scoured the community to find the best and brightest on our particular subject. But today it's a little different. She sent us an email, so we'll go around the table and have, we also have a Mike here today. I'm not sure what it looks like he's having trouble staying awake. I have paper clips over here, then I can throw them at you.
I am dying to hear what Kathleen has to say to us, because I am a huge climate change person of interest.
Yeah.
I think we're going through the sixth major extinction as we go, so let's fix things.
Amen. Amen, brother.
And how I got to be first, I don't know, Kathleen. That's just wrong.
Because we go around the table clockwise, as always. So,
it's fine.
Well, you're on.
I'm on. Okay. Well, hey, everyone. I'm Kathleen Dickson, and y'all know me for a number of reasons. But a lot of you might not know that I'm also part of a national group called Third Act. It was founded by Bill McKibben. In 2021, I believe, I got involved in 2023. Third Act is made up of people who care about the climate and democracy, and they're over 60 years of age, hence the name Third Act. We're in the third act of our lives. So the way we look at it, we may not have the energy to be out protesting every day. We may not have a lot of that spunk, but we've got time, we've got money a lot of the times, and we can support the young people in their fight to deal with the issue of climate change and democracy. So I'm part of one of the working groups. Let me back up. Third Act is a national organization. Then there are working groups made up of people in different states. So Third Act Oregon, Third Act California, Third Act New York, et cetera, et cetera. Then there are also working groups that are based on affinities or affiliations. So there's Third Act lawyers, Third Act creatives, and I am a co-facilitator with Third Act Faith, because the people in my working group come at the whole issue of climate change from a faith-based perspective. So what we do is we try to support other third actors in their efforts to make people pay attention about climate change. By people, I mean big banks, big businesses, and big government. And we support them from a faith perspective. We design online services that will help them bolster their courage for an action that they're going to be doing the next day. Or we will offer ways to still have hope when it seems hopeless. So that's kind of where I'm at on the Third Act stage. As far as climate change is concerned, I agree with Mike that we are most likely in our sixth extinction period. We are running out of time. There are some indications that tipping points have passed. I am no expert when it comes to climate change. I know the little bit I know.
We're
weird.
having a
I don't
problem
know.
recording.
We're getting somebody else in here.
No, it's
Now that's me.
Kathleen repeating. But we'll work through it.
Okay.
Go ahead, Kathleen.
So anyway, I know what I know based on what I read and what I hear from people that are more expert than I. So I care about this planet, and I want to see it thrive. As a person of faith, I believe that it is my responsibility to take care of the planet, to take care of creation. And so it's easy from my faith perspective to be on the side of creation and the planet and caring for our plants and our animals and our people in a way that doesn't desecrate things and turn us into a big ball of heat in 10, 20 years.
Right. Yeah, so, and we all are. We all should be concerned about the planet. I want to ask real quick, Kathleen, about the research I did, and I wasn't aware of Third Act until we talked about it, I think it was a month ago. The age, Bill McKibben again, the way I read it, it was like he said people in their 60s, but it goes 60 and beyond.
Sure.
Okay. I kind of thought so.
Yeah, Bill McKibben's the founder of Third Act, and he's been writing about the climate and about climate change for decades. I have to admit, I've never read his first book, but I read his more recent book. Oh gosh, I knew I was going to forget the title of it. Station Wagons. It's kind of a biography of his life growing up in the 70s, which resonates to me because I grew up in the 70s.
Okay.
He was on PBS's Brief but Spectacular Take back in 2023, and that's what caught my eye. And I read the book, and I got to know about Third Act, and I said, I got to get involved because I have to do something. I'm at that point in my life where I can no longer just sit back and let other people do something. If I'm going to leave any kind of legacy, quote unquote, then I need to do what I can do. And what I can do is help advocate for the climate through groups like Third Act.
And Third Act, like you said, you're with Third Act Oregon or Third Act Faith.
Well, I'm actually with both of them, but I'm a co-facilitator with Third Act.
Okay, and they work together, obviously.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do all 50 states have a Third Act?
I'm not sure if all states do. You could check. If you went to the website, thirdact.org, there's a page, working groups, and you can see geographically where the groups are. Some states have more than one. California, I think, has a Northern California and a Southern California. But the goal is...
at odds.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
The goal is for every state to have a working group.
Well, good.
Yeah, and that's the geographic working groups is where the action is generally done. Like if there's going to be a protest at a bank, or if there's going to be a rally at the Capitol, then it's the geographic working groups that set those up. The affinity group that I'm with, Third Act Faith, we work nationwide, so we're basically a Zoom-based group. Working group. And so what we do is we try to support the geographic groups and the national group with, like I say, things like right now we've got a couple of monthly webinars that we do that are about how to maintain hope in a hopeless time of our lives. Meditation and positive reinforcement and grief talk, things like that. Because people in this fight, it's pretty discouraging at times, especially...
There's been a lot of discouraging news.
Oh, God, yeah. The climate in this country, the political climate in this country is such that it's very discouraging to...
I would assume right now it's kind of an uphill battle.
It is, yeah.
But we can't give up.
Exactly.
Because...
if we give up, then they win.
Yes.
So
right.
It's not an uphill battle, but I think every day or every couple of days the hill gets steeper. When,
that's a good way to look at it.
Seems like it.
When we just had the Clean Air Act done away with, things like that constantly, and educational things.
Well, Kathleen, you mentioned PBS, and they're in danger now. And yeah.
So are we, I think.
Well, yes.
Not in the same way, but
right.
I envision that there are groups all the time contacting their conservative people about some of the community radios that people feel are very
woke.
Liberal, and
but
we don't get any federal funding, but
right.
we are licensed by the federal government.
Well, I'm a member of the library board here in town, and so we catch plenty of flack from the far right MAGA folk who believe that our library is condoning books that they don't approve of.
That was an ugly fight, and I'm glad that the recent, I don't know how recent it was, but there was fear that recent election, if you will, was going to put some pretty nutty people on the board.
Yeah.
As far as libraries go, you can understand at least the idea of protecting their children from books, but not too long ago, the Air Force Academy Library took over 200 books. I don't know if they think they're going to be influencing these
right, yeah.
soon-to-be Air Force officers or what. But They didn't take Mein Kampf out, so
Of course not.
Good heavens. So on the faith groups, I'm guessing, I'm going to assume here that every state that has the third act possibly has a third act faith also?
No, because third act faith works on a nationwide basis. So it's hard to describe. Third act is a national umbrella organization.
Okay.
But because we need to take this fight to the state level, they've always also developed a second tier of geographic groups, which is where all the different states come in.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some things that can be approached from a nationwide, on a nationwide level. And that's where, for instance, third act lawyers, the guys, the people in third act lawyers, what they're doing is they're assisting with legal questions and legal approaches to the fight for climate change. If a group wants to do a particular kind of protest and they're not sure if they're on proper legal footing, then third act legal would step in and say, yes, you are, or here's what you need to do to protect yourself. With third act faith, and there's only about 8 affinity groups: creatives, legal, faith, educators.
Oh,
maybe a couple more. I can't remember.
A few little splinter groups, I would call them.
Sort of. We're still part of Third Act.
Right.
We're umbrellaed by Third Act, but we approach the fight for climate from a different perspective. The educators, their job is to create materials that will help the geographic groups educate the public at large. The Third Act Faith Group, we assist by creating mostly webinars and Zoom meetings and the like, where people who are third actors who are also Christian or Jewish or Muslim or whatever, who have a faith, feel as though they can take their faith and use it in this fight. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So as a Christian, my Bible tells me that when God created the earth, He gave humanity, and the word is not dominion. I don't care what anybody on the right says.
That one has always galled me too.
It is not dominion. If you look back to the original Greek, the word does not mean dominion. It generally means care for, or something along those lines. And so that's where Christians who are part of Third Act come at it from. We believe that we're charged with taking care of creation. And so climate change is not taking care of creation.
Right. And doesn't that make so much more sense?
Sure. But from Third Act's perspective, we act in a way that assists anybody who needs that kind of spiritual basis or hope-filled type of work. It's hard to describe. But yeah. So go ahead.
Well, no, I have. And before I go, to remember the listeners, you can comment or have questions here. 541-661-4098. How about? I'm assuming there are hopefully some tribal communities involved.
My guess is there are some groups that are tribal communities that are involved with Third Act. I don't know offhand which ones might be, but there are a number of groups in the country who are fighting to mitigate the effects of climate change. Green Faith and Interfaith Power and Light and Greenpeace and Sierra Club and Audubon, and they're all Nature Conservancy. They're all doing their bits.
You bet.
To try and try to wake the people up about what's really happening. And a lot of folks get it. It's really hard to miss it these days because of all the extreme weather events we've been having. It's a sign of climate change, in my opinion.
I
folks, I'm not a scientist. I'm not an expert. Please.
But a lot of scientists do agree with
us here.
This is my opinion.
Yeah, but I think this is what you're talking about is pretty much scientific. Most of it seems to be scientific fact.
Yeah.
And this buoys my spirits a little bit because as a secularist, not affiliated with any religion, I always kind of felt of course, I'm talking about mostly Christian evangelicals who, for some reason, seem to be counter to where you're talking about and what we're concerned about. And I've never understood that.
And as a progressive Christian, or I like to call myself a follower of Christ now because the word Christian has been so...
demonized?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, weaponized even.
Well, I'm sorry,
Weaponized,
right? Weaponized.
Both, but demonized as well.
Well-
For folks who are not religious, and I totally get a person who turns their back on any kind of organized religion. I was anti-organized religion for a good 20, 30 years of my life because I just saw nothing but hypocrisy.
Yeah.
And I still see, in a lot of cases, nothing but hypocrisy.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
But well, I'm glad you pointed that out because I was probably one on that side for quite a while, being very anti-religious.
Sure.
But like I said, it buoys my spirits to hear, hey, there's groups out there that have faith, that have concern about progressive issues, if you will.
Yeah.
And there's another demonized word, progressive. That's
Sure.
liberal, whatever. We can go on and on.
Sure. It's funny because at the core of it, and we're starting to see this more, I think, in our town even, at the core, the more stuff gets destroyed, defunded, removed, fired, whatever, the more that kind of thing happens, the more people are starting to say, wait a minute, this is not what I voted for. This is not what I thought was going to happen. This is not what I want. And my desire these days is to work really hard not to demonize people that thought differently than me or still think differently than me, but to remind everybody of our connections, of our common ground, of what it is that we can agree on. Because in Brookings alone, I remember, was it like 8 years ago or so, when the nickel mine was, the company out of Canada was trying to do a nickel mine up the Smith River watershed, I believe it was.
Oh.
And they had some public meetings here in town at the high school, and that gym was filled with people of all shapes and sizes, all walks of life, against the idea because it would destroy our clean water. That was what it boiled down to, clean water. And people can get on the same side of a lot of issues if we just stop letting those in power try to divide us, and we start remembering that there's a lot more that connects us than divides us. And when it comes to religion, there are those on the far right who are trying to use religion to divide us. You're pitting Muslims against Jews, against Christians, against Buddhists, against secularists, against everybody. They're trying to make out like there's only one way of being, and it's a far right, patriarchal, so-called Christian way of being. Bull, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Bull crap on that.
Yes.
Because there's another word I'd rather use, but I've totally can't use those kinds of words on the radio.
Not every licensed by the
We are
FCC.
well aware of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
FCC thugs right at the door. So
yeah.
you probably saw those guys dressed in black out there as you came in.
Well, and again, you don't have to delineate every one, but it's good to hear you've mentioned Muslim, you've mentioned Hindus, Christian, progressive Christians, if you will, and all of those are a part of the third act faith.
Sure. Yeah, we have, in fact, our co-facilitating, our coordinating committee, of which I'm a part, is made up of, the majority of us are Christian, but there are also Jewish, Muslim, Sikh, Buddhist, Wiccan, Quakers.
That was my wife's preference, I think, is Wiccan.
Yeah. Because we're not. Third act itself is all about mitigating the effects of climate change, doing everything we possibly can to stop the carbon from rising. The carbon level's at what, 420 point something right now? That wasn't that long ago. It was at 350 because Bill McKibben founded 350.org back in the day. I think that was in the 90s or 80s.
Okay.
Don't quote me. But
And again, he is the founder of Third Act. Okay.
It wasn't that long ago that the target number was 350 parts per million carbon. It's up to 420 something now. And it is growing exponentially. So it's like, that's why I'm saying, some of these tipping points that they're worried about, the Atlantic oscillating current, I believe it's called. They're really worried that it's going to break down, and if it does, then that destroys the flow of cold air from the north in the Atlantic Ocean down to the south, and then it oscillates back up, and that's what drives food, that's what drives the fish. I mean, people, anyone who's really, and it's hard to pay attention to all of this. Anyone who's really just focused on, what's going on in their life and in their community, and they're raising kids and they're working and they're, trying to make a way.
Just live a life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't know all of this other stuff that's happening because scientists are being silenced. And it's like, so Third Act's job is to try and keep pounding that point forward, to keep emphasizing that we are all on this planet together, and we all sink or swim. Nobody gets away with, if the climate gets worse, nobody gets to move to Mars despite what a certain somebody wants to do. I don't think that's possible before this planet dies if we don't do something now. And by something, I mean every single little thing we can do. And I don't care if they tell you, building electric cars, that also messes up the climate because you need all these minerals. Well, yeah, okay. But read Bill McKibben's Substack, and he points out that the effort to mine the minerals that are needed for electric cars, for instance, for the batteries for electric cars.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is some climate damage that will happen in the mining, but it's basically once you get it all mined, you just recycle it over and over, and it's amazing how much you can recycle. It's a lot less damage compared to what carbon is doing to this world.
Not only that, to mine or to drill for oil or get coal has a great deal of damage.
Our president complains about windmills, right? Well, wind turbines. Has he ever been to Wyoming and seen town after town after town with oil rigs dotting the landscape? I lived there. I grew up in Wyoming.
Oh, wow.
And we would go to basketball games in some of these towns, and the town stunk of oil. Literally, this was in the 70s, it stunk. And there were oil rigs everywhere, and there still are. Coal mines that are big gaping holes in the landscape of Wyoming. I mean, I lived 60 miles away from Gillette, which is where the biggest ones are. It's just...
I'm always amazed when they talk about the windmills destroying the view.
Yeah.
From my perspective, when I go through a wind farm, that gladdens my heart, so to speak. There's coming down from California, going through the hills with this.
The Columbia Gorge is a great example.
And he's talking about the beautiful valleys being screwed up with windmills.
Well,
in a country that has tons of wind power.
Yeah.
His speeches in Scotland.
Yeah, and that power, sorry to jump in, but that power comes, in my perspective, comes from our Creator, God, the higher power, Allah. I don't care what you call Yahweh. I don't care what you call him, the Great Spirit. Call it what you will. That comes from nature. That's free stuff. And why we're not harnessing that now, and I mean doing everything possible to harness wind and sun and water is beyond me. It makes no sense.
No, and you had a very good point talking about like the batteries, and yes, there's some damage. We all hope that the scientists and the smart people figure all this stuff out eventually, because, and like Ray, you were saying, so what, we just keep the old drill, baby, drill. You want to keep doing that? Really? Going for coal and that stuff that just is killing us. I think real quick on the windmills, the wind turbines, and we've talked about this on the show a couple times. Yeah, the big blades can have some problems, but now I've seen some that these wind turbines have no blades.
I've seen those too.
Okay, and there again, somebody tweaked that a little bit. Okay, this is a problem. No, we can make this work. So
they say that solar panels now, they're like, I don't know, 50 times better than the ones just 50 years ago.
Oh,
I know that we were looking into solar on my house until I realized that the tax credit wasn't going to help me, and I couldn't afford it anyway. I'm hopeful that someday soon I will have solar on my house. But they were telling me that the way they tie them together, if one or two is shaded, the rest of them work just fine. They keep pumping out. In the old days, you had a blockage on one and the whole array was
messed up. If you had a leaf fall on one panel on one side.
That's not true anymore.
Yeah.
And anyone who insists that solar is the cheapest form of energy there is now. without a doubt. Again, Bill McKibben.
I lived for years in a house that had solar panels.
Really?
That's what we ran a house on, was solar.
I would love to. That's a dream of mine before I die, to have a solar house.
It was a small house.
An electric car.
And it was built to be very economic to run on electricity, the electricity we used. But.
Well, and see, that's a whole nother discussion is on humanity's desire for bigger and better and more and more. We really, I believe, need to learn to live with just what we need, and to rein this greed and this capitalistic approach to life. We got to rein it in. And I'm going to start to sound like a socialist now, or even a communist.
Oh, I'm giving the vapors.
But my point is sustainable. Humanity needs to start thinking about being sustainable in everything we do. Just because there's a bunch of trees out our window here in Brookings, Oregon, does not mean we should cut every one of them down.
Right.
That was the thinking 100 years ago when they were coming through and logging everything. It's like, oh, yeah, there's trees for miles and miles, so we can cut a bunch. No biggie. They'll grow back. Well, yeah, but they forget the diversity of an old growth forest is important in so many ways. It's not the same as cutting every tree down and planting more trees and having a tree farm. They're two different creatures, but that's a different.
Well, but no, and a good point there too. I'll call them right now, for lack of a better term, the anti-environmentalists, and that there's whether they're religious or not, there's a lot of them out there.
Sure.
They're good at picking the I can't come up with the right word. The
downsides.
Well, I'll use this for example: the Sacramento River, the snail darter. That it's a necessary fish, but it's a little innocuous-looking thing. But they made that the devil, if you will.
Right.
Oh, you want to save the snail darter,
like the spotted owl here.
Spotted owl's another one. And I'm sure there's plenty more. I can't come up with too many now, but they're good at that.
Yeah.
And making people say, "Oh, you don't care about us. You care about this one little creature." But it all works together.
And you don't care about the people that are going to get cancer from the noise from windmills. Nobody cares about them. It seems like.
Well,
I've never. You would think there would be some kind of a charity ball or something to raise money for the people who have windmill caused cancer.
It's hard to argue also because on the one hand, and I wasn't living here during the spotted owl controversy, but on the one hand, I understand that there were sawmills that were worried about losing their businesses, people losing their jobs because they were stopping the lumber industry. So I get that, and it's today it's really hard. Another good example, they're trying to introduce the sea otter to our coast.
Ooh, we did a show on that. That's right.
Right. Alaka Alliance is probably, yep, I know them. And the crab fishermen are very worried about that because they're just sure that these sea otters are going to eat all the crab up. But what they're not looking at also is without sea otters, the purple urchin destroys the kelp forest. And without the kelp forest, the fisheries lose that nursery area that they depend on. And without the nurseries, the fisheries have no fish. And without no fish, there is no fishing industry. Mm-hmm. So, if you start to look big picture, you can also then start to figure out, okay, well, how do we mitigate the potential damage that a sea otter can do to the crab industry? And still bring back the sea otters and still get the advantages of sea otters when it comes to purple urchins and kelp. And if enough people would stop entrenching themselves in that one place where, oh my God, sea otters are going to kill the crab and I'm going to lose my job, and start trying to think of creative ways to work with each other, then, that's what Third Act tries to do. I mean, we're definitely not out there trying to demonize any other industry per se. We do believe that the fossil fuel industry needs to wind itself down quicker than not. We do believe that the support of the government should be on renewable energies, not fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are, yes, going to be somewhat necessary for a little while longer, perhaps, because there are industries that are difficult to transition to renewables.
Right.
But we have got to stop thinking that fossil fuel is the only fuel that we should be using. I mean, we're talking about burning stuff up and then it's gone. And renewables they're called renewables for a reason.
That's right.
So
Many industries have died over the years because of modernization, and I like to use the analogy of way back when there was a guy who had a very thriving business, and he was the third generation of this business, and he made can't think of the name. Spear points.
Arrowheads.
Yeah, arrowheads and spear points.
Okay.
And he had and all of a sudden, gradually, there was no longer need for spear points. Clovis spear points was the thing.
Okay.
And they, he had, what are my children going to do? But anyhow, somehow they survived.
yeah.
Well, Kathleen, you're hitting all the points that I love. I mean, you're right. I'll go real quick to the fossil fuels, the Bay Area in Richmond, where I've worked a lot for the railroad, but they're going to shut a bunch of plants down right now because now that might reverse right now with the Trump administration. That's the reality, and we don't want to see people lose jobs.
Right.
We don't. And I agree that we can't just say, which isn't going to happen now, but we can't just cut the fossil fuel industry off right now. It just wouldn't work.
Well, it couldn't happen. I mean,
Because of jobs, we can't cut them off right now?
What's that?
Because of jobs?
Yeah.
We can create an AI industry that's going to kill all of those jobs,
Right.
but we can't stop the fossil fuel that keeps us from killing our transoceanic currents, which when the ice caps are gone and the transoceanic currents have all stopped, we turn into an ice age.
Well,
It's an ice age, guys. The planet is fine. The planet is totally fine. It doesn't care. It's what lives on the planet that is going to be reset in the midst of all of this. Not the planet. The planet is okay. It's gone through it before. We will probably not be the last extinction that occurs on this planet. The sun's got plenty of time left. So this is what we're dealing with. It's planetary. The planet is curing the virus that is killing life on the planet so that the planet can reset.
yeah, but isn't that going to be many, many millennia into the future?
No, it's going to be hundreds of years, not many millennia. It's a lot shorter time frame when we've gone from 350 to 420 over what?
50 years?
I think less
Than that, probably.
Much less than.
If things don't change, you're being very optimistic by saying hundreds. Probably not even that.
Optimistic by saying hundreds. Yes, sir. I agree. That's what I would say. Long before we ever get people colonizing Mars, we will be the Earth will be resetting itself.
Speaking of that absolutely insane idea, I watched a couple of documentaries about colonizing Mars. It's crazy. There's not a square foot of that planet that you can walk around without spacesuits on.
If
we have to build
do any of that, we can fix what's happening here.
Exactly.
End of story. Because it's all the same principles, and it's a lot easier to do here. But we would rather talk about that than do anything here. And we are moving in the exact wrong directions.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, during the election, Third Act pivoted from focusing on climate change to focusing on democracy. And Third Act Faith.
In trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Third Act Faith did a couple of Zoom meetings where we brought together panels of religious leaders and talked about how important it was as a spiritual person to, it was your responsibility to vote, and it was okay for people to preach from the pulpit, from the, from the leaders to preach about voting. That wasn't partisan. Political is one thing, partisanship is another thing. Anyway, we were trying everything we could to make sure that Kamala won the election, and we all know what happened.
Oh,
so this
disaster.
year we've pivoted back to climate change because we are aware that there's probably very little we can do to make a difference in the political world as it is. But Mike is right. In fact, I'm part of a small group of people that gets together every couple of weeks. We call ourselves the Doomsters. And there are some people in that group that talk just like you talk. And I counter that with the belief that could very well be naive on my part, could very well be pie in the sky, but the belief that since I believe in a creator, I believe in love being the power behind life. I have to believe that somewhere along the line, before humanity is destroyed, before life on Earth is destroyed, good's going to triumph, love's going to triumph, light's going to triumph, whatever words you want to use.
Good thought.
I made this argument at our last Doomsters meeting, that I have to walk around with this hope, this belief that there's, and I'm not saying some entity is going to come down and fix things. That's not what I'm saying at all. I don't believe that for a second, but I do believe that love will triumph through and because of other humans that aren't quitting, that are staying in the fight, that even when it looks hopeless, are still doing everything they can to convince their fellow man that our direction needs to go in the way of life.
That's one of the questions I was going to ask you is there optimism among the members of Third Act or the Third Act organization that they actually can pull this off?
Well, Kathleen sounds like she has some optimism.
Well, me personally, me personally.
Yeah.
Now, Bill McKibben, his Substacks are generally, he does everything he possibly can to point out the good that's going on in the world. We have to remember our perspective is very U.S.-centric, and we forget there's a big world out there, and there are countries out there that get maybe not 100%, but nearly 100% of their energy comes from renewables. Now, China is doing amazing things. And I realize that China's the boogeyman these days, or maybe it's Russia. But
I think both.
the thing I got to say about the Chinese government is when they realized that coal was not the answer, that it was going to just make things worse, they pivoted to renewables like that. And everybody in that country is hell-bent on, hopefully that word's okay, on going toward renewables. It can be done, and countries other than us are doing it. The sad fact remains that there's 347 million of us, and we're all currently being led down the path of destruction by one man and his
cabal.
That works. Yeah, his handlers, whatever you want to call them. But I do believe, and I think Third Act has hope. I mean, we're all in our last third of life, so we all know we're not going to be around when the worst of it hits. I mean, I'm 60, pushing 65, so I think I got 20 years left, maybe 25 if I did quit smoking. That helped.
Oh.
If I start exercising again, that might get me to 90.
That's a biggie, though.
You see what I'm saying? I'm not going to be around when the worst of it happens.
Yeah, but, most of us care, even though we're not going to be around. But some of us don't.
I know.
It sounds.
Some of us don't.
By the way, 541-661-4098. If y'all have a question or comment, I'd love to hear from you.
You mentioned that we're only one country in the world, and the other day I saw Trump giving a speech talking about how many trillions of dollars we've gotten since he was president.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And not only that, we're respected around the world now.
Right.
I believe that's not true.
It's absolutely not true. Talk to some people who have gone abroad since he's been around. Mm-hmm. And that's not only once, but you elected him twice. How did that happen?
Yeah.
And no, he's not respected at all around the world.
Yeah.
I want to go real quick to another back to Bill McKibben, if I have that right, Bill McKibben.
Yes, Bill McKibben.
What I love, that I heard a couple of things he said about the, I'll call them old people. I'm in my 70s, but anyway.
You have a right.
Yeah. He said fossils, we're fossils against fossil fuels.
That works.
So I thought that was pretty
That
cool.
works. Yeah, that works.
Inspired me. And then another one was, I really like this about the faith, Third Act faith. said roots in ethics, or justice, and compassion, and the sacredness of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
Who could not believe in that? But there's some people, unfortunately, they don't seem to care. And not only do they not care, but they're trying to force feed us. Let's go back, we talked about earlier, to coal, to more fossil fuels. And some of these people are smart. Why would they even say that?
And I don't know. For the life of me, I can't figure out how anybody who's living on this planet, who has children or grandchildren, who understands what's happening to the climate, I don't get how they could just blindly keep moving forward in that direction of fossil fuels. I don't know. Part of the reason I belong to Third Act is because, at least in Third Act, we're all eyes wide open, and we're doing everything we can to help the rest of us move toward renewables by showing how much cheaper it is, how much more beneficial it is, how much cleaner it is, how much healthier it is, how much cheaper it is. I said that once already, didn't I?
We can hear it again.
There's a lot of reasons to. I mean, wouldn't you love to be driving your electric car through town and never having to stop at a gas station again for the rest of your life? I mean, good Lord.
We have people raising their hands in the studio.
Yeah. I mean, think of the money you'd save.
I drove my electric car to the show today, and I happened to be looking at the odometer, and I put almost 26,000 miles on it since I got it, and no gas, no oil changes, no tune-ups or tons of things. It just sits there. I bring it home and plug it in.
It's amazing.
Drive where I want to go. And now the one I have is a very, very minimal. It's made pretty much in the early days of electric cars, but it does 99% of my driving.
And the whole. I mean, I guess part of the reason fossil fuel is hanging on by its teeth and helped to get this president elected, I believe, my opinion.
No, I believe that too.
So I think it's because the only thing that they worship is money, money and power. And I mean, we just had a sermon today in church all about greed. Jesus had some words to say about greed, and how it was not a good thing. I mean, God says, why are you storing up all of your treasures on earth when you're going to die tonight, and then all of your stuff is for naught? Why did you bother when you should have been saving your riches for God, or something along those lines?
Or saving up for the.
I'm not a preacher, but I mean, it's like this money, this craving for power over others. What are you going to do with it? You're still going to die someday, and you're not going to get off this planet. Despite what you might think, before the worst happens, and maybe you won't die before the poor people in third world countries, or the poor in our own country, because you can't get out of the heat, or you can't find a job because the jobs are gone, because the economy's trash, because our president seems to think that tariffs are the answer. I don't know. I just throw my hands up, and I'm like, I'm going to do what I can do, what's in front of me, what I think I can. I'm going to try to make a difference until the day I die. I'm going to not be quiet, and I'm not going to worry about who I don't want to make enemies, but I'm not going to worry about that. And I don't care about money anymore. There was a time when money meant something because I never had it, but it no longer really does.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's kind of necessary.
But
But I know what you're saying, especially with the greed and the power. It kind of makes me think, I don't know if this is a good analogy or not, but I'll go back to the dominion over the animals, if you will.
Sure.
Even people. The decimation of the buffalo herds across. When Manifest Destiny, we've talked about this before, but that one just galls me. Just to kill for the pleasure of killing. And that still goes on.
Yeah. They're talking about I was in Montana killing wolves, like 500 of them. I mean, my father was a Forest Service ranger, and when the Yellowstone fire happened, a lot of people in my mom's circle were just unhappy that fire had happened. Why did they try to put it out or whatever? And Dad said, fire was a good thing, that it was gonna.
It can be, that's for sure.
And
Rewilding has certainly
And
proven
rewilding, yeah. And
good
the
thing.
same, the wolves, the story behind the wolves in Yellowstone was, I just saw a post the other day. The wolves coming back kept the elk and the deer herds in check, which in turn stopped them from eating everything in sight, which now today there are actually aspen trees in Yellowstone again. That was the picture that I saw.
And it's also made those prey herds much healthier than they were.
Exactly.
Because they,
Yeah, it's a circle of life, guys, and it's all designed for that reason. And humanity, in all of our hubris, we come in and we think we know better than God, even, or higher, greater.
Whatever your higher power.
Whatever,
may be,
yeah. I use the word God because that's what I grew up with.
Well, that's okay.
Apologize for folks who don't like to hear the word God. There are a lot of people out there that the word God is like, oh, don't say that word again.
Well, it's funny. And you know why I think that is? Because a lot of the people have used God as their cudgel.
Yeah.
They use the Bible as a cudgel to beat down, to make people feel terrible and guilty.
Yeah, we're all sinners going to hell.
All of that, that crazy stuff.
Yeah.
I want to take just a little, Michael stepped out, but he's back in. I just wanted to take a little issue with, you talked about the planet not hurting or whatever. I guess I see it a little differently because when I see the melting glaciers, the icebergs calving, the temperature of the ocean in Florida got one time up into the 100-degree, that kind of a thing, the coral reefs dying, to me that says the planet is hurting.
Well, the water, we have ruined our water cycles.
Yeah.
We talk about it being fossil fuel, and what the fossil fuel burning has done has caused things. But the things they have caused inevitably are messing with our water cycles. The rain cycles, the
currents of the ocean, or
how much snow we get, the currents in the ocean, all of that.
Right.
What we should probably, to my mind, and I'm not an expert, I don't think we have any experts anymore. We fired them all.
Good
So
point.
I'm not an expert, but I think what we have to do is start to concentrate on how we're going to rebuild the ice packs.
Well,
That's a good point.
Nobody's talking about that
True.
because the Earth, the physical Earth, has two major engines. One of them is the ice caps that drive the transoceanic currents that keep the oceans aerobic and alive, and fish and kelp and the sea otters. You talked about Yosemite and reintroducing the wolves.
Yellowstone.
The sea otters, the kelp and the urchins, they all exist in an equilibrium in a healthy environment.
Yep.
Where they don't exist in equilibrium, that's the unhealthy environment, which we have, in essence, created when we decided that we needed all the sea otters' fur to be on Russian and American backs instead of in the ocean.
wearing animals as well.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. There's a word I can't come up with, but
So
to look good.
what are we going to do?
decoratively, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can't help but see a woman. You don't see them that much, but and these beautiful furs with incredible ruffs, and I'm thinking, good grief, the animal that ruff came off of must have been beautiful.
Well, I don't like that. Kathleen, before we get to the last 10 or 12 minutes, I wanted to get to, we had talked about the evil banks as I'm flipping through my because that I have to deal with three of them. That's Citi, Bank of America, Chase, and Wells Fargo were the other ones. So, we talked about maybe there was a movement to try to cut up credit cards.
Yeah, so before the show aired, everyone, we were chatting a little bit about Third Act, and I was telling these guys how I got involved. So I mentioned that I saw Bill McKibben on PBS doing a brief but spectacular take on whatever it was. And that led me to him, which in turn led me to Third Act, and I joined in 2023. The big action that year was called 3-2-1-2-3. That was March 21st, 2023. And the idea was on that day, we were asking everybody who had credit cards from one of those 4 dirty banks, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Chase, and Citi, to, if they could, cut their cards up. And the idea was we were saying to these banks, if you don't cut out funding fossil fuel industry, we are going to cut up our credit cards so that you don't get our money to do that, basically. So as part of Third Act Faith, we were trying to figure out how we could support this effort, since we're national and we don't have any boots on the ground specifically. So we developed a service of solidarity, we called it, that aired the night before for any third actor that wanted to watch it. And we just did basically a church service, if you will, that gave folks who were going to be participating in the action the next day, if they needed it, a sense of, solidarity, a sense of we're in this together, a sense of, hey, you can pray, there's music that will get you geared up. There's all kinds of things to help you get ready for this big day. And so my song leader at church, Diane, and I, we recorded, with the help of our pastor, we recorded 3 songs that's on that service. And it's still on Third Act's YouTube page, I guess, is what I've been told.
That's good.
But that was my introduction. I don't have any one of those credit cards, but I do bank at one of the large national banks that's no better than the others. And so the point, the idea behind that action was to cut off the funding stream for fossil fuel industry. And the best way to do that is to let the banks who are loaning them the money, realize that there are other customers of theirs that are not happy with that, and we will do what we can to take our money away from them. And the idea was to convince them that maybe they ought to stop funding fossil fuel. And it made a difference on a small scale for the next couple of years, until this year, when we all know what is happening this year. The administration is now saying, oh, no, we need those fossil fuels. And so the banks are backing off of their promises and saying, okay, we're just going to give money to these industries again because that's right. What our president wants.
That's right. And again, we were talking before the show, and I've tried earlier in my, I say my brief life, I've been up this way about 7 years. Anyway, because I have a card at Citi, I have 2 cards at B of A, and my checking account at Chase. But it is pretty difficult for all of this. I tried to get out of there one time, and I had somebody said, "Oh, don't turn your credit card in. You'll get a worse credit score." Now I'm still my credit score is okay now, and if I did that, what the heck? Can I handle a couple of points? I think so. So I'm rethinking that, but I don't think I can do it yet with the Chase Bank, only because everything I have is kind of tied into the.
Right.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
Your bills coming out, but it is a consideration. I would like to go to I do belong to the one credit union, and go with just that.
Well, people when they think about the climate emergency and all of the things going on, one of the questions that will come up is, well, what can I do? I'm just one person, and I'm not going to make a difference. It's like with your vote. A lot of folks, my husband was one of them for years. It's like, why bother to vote? My vote doesn't count. I'm just one person. Yeah. But if everybody did what they could, and if that means you can cut up your credit card, you do it. But if you can't, you find another way to make your voice heard, another way that may convince somebody that maybe, this is a better direction to go. Anyway, if we all looked at it as doing what we can, what we can do personally, then collectively, it's like that butterfly effect. Collectively, we will make a difference. Who was it that said that?
The flapping of the butterflies?
Yeah,
wings
happens on the other side of the world.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, and then was it Margaret Sanger who said, it was the quote about never doubt that a small group of people can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that has, or something along those lines.
Yeah,
Margaret Mead.
Margaret Mead, thank you. I knew it was a Margaret somebody.
Yeah.
Margaret Mead. It's that kind of thinking that is underneath the philosophy at Third Act. We we know we're older and we're tired and we're near our end of our lives, and we've only got so much left to give. But the little bit that we've got to give, we're going to give it with all of our heart and with all of our energy, because can you look your grandkids in the face and say, oh, I didn't do anything back then. I just sat around and watched TV because I couldn't make a difference because I'm just one person.
Yeah.
Or, I can't imagine anyone with grandkids or kids who could honestly say, I don't care what happens in the future. It's fine with me if it falls apart. What can I do?
And there are people out there like that.
I know.
Some of them are.
Well, they don't believe that it's really happening. Is the
Right.
problem? They don't believe it's really happening. They can't, and it gets me a little choked up at times. My heart for this work really lies with Mother Nature itself, with the animals and the plants, the rest of life. Human beings have choices, and we can make choices that will better our lives or will make our lives worse. But nothing else in life has the same kind of choices. A redwood tree cannot up and move, and go 200 miles and start growing up there just because it's getting hotter where they live. They're animals, same thing. Animals can't move fast enough. They can't not transform.
Acclimate?
No, that's not the word. Migrate, but that's not the word either. Evolve. They can't evolve fast enough. The damage we're causing to the climate goes so fast that nothing can adapt. And that's where I think the true problem is. People talk about how there have been extinctions in the past, and there have been, but they took eons to happen, right? And we are just pushing it so fast, and we're doing so much damage in so little time that nothing stands a chance, and it breaks my heart.
It does.
It truly breaks my heart.
It does. I think all of us too. And we talk about just because I don't live where the polar bears are, or I don't live right now where the snail darter, I just care about the whole thing coming together. If that makes sense. Boy, we are almost out of time. I do want to ask you real quick on the Third Act Oregon, Faith. Are there for people to get there? Are there dues?
No.
How do they get?
Well,
donations?
We're a nonprofit, and so you can certainly go to thirdact.org, the national organization, and there's a donate button there. I would encourage people here in Brookings to get involved with Third Act Oregon. They're based in Portland, but they're really good people. I've met Cindy and John up there, and they're really doing a lot of good things in our state. So go to thirdact.org and look on the working groups tab and find Oregon and sign up and start going to their Zoom meetings. There's lots of ways to make a difference. And I should stop talking.
I was going to toss in this coming Tuesday night, SOCAN at the library.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill Gorham's going to give us a wonderful speech, and we're going to learn a lot of good things.
And we'll get to know new people.
Southern Oregon, Climate Action Now.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally, since I live just across the border in Smith River, I'll look into Third Act Northern California.
There you go.
Yeah, my home, and I love it. And we all should love where we live.
Yes.
Kathleen, thank you so much for being our guest. This was great. And learned a lot, and we have a lot more to learn, apparently.
Well, thanks for entertaining my rambling.
you proved the negative. I was reading more about. They said that seniors like us, we might not have the energy and the whatever. You've proven that wrong, because you have the enthusiasm, the passion, the energy, and
there are people out there that care.
You betcha.
I was just curious. You talked about being part of a subgroup called the Doomsters. Mm-hmm. When you get together and get really upset, do you call it a Doomster fire?
That's a good one. I got to share that with them.
What's that little thing that?
I got to share that. That's brilliant, Mike.
All right. Well, hey, thank you again, Kathleen, and we're pushing up the clock, and we'll be here next week. I don't quite know. Well, we'll figure it out. We'll be here next week. Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you.